And down in Roswell, Kimberly Harshy-Key captured a tornadic cloud overhead and storm clouds creeping in over the area.
There's a large sinkhole opening up in Alachua County. GTN's Haley Holloway is live in Jonesville on the scene.
Right now, this one is 40% bigger than it was just this morning, and he says it's only going to get bigger from here.
Huge sinkhole swallows a car in Evansville, Indiana.
This is not what you expect to see at your local strip mall. A sinkhole opening up after extreme flooding here. So many people across this nation feeling Mother Nature's fury.
Take a look at this unbelievable scene, a massive sinkhole in Austin Peay's campus. So far, it has swallowed part of the field and track of Governor's Stadium there.
From Sky 5 HD, you can see just how big the sinkhole is, swallowing a part of the northern end zone and track inside Governor's Stadium.
A mysterious hole that looks to have come out of the earth has just appeared in Russia. The hole has been caught by satellites and appears in one of the most remote places in Russia, Yamal, which literally translates to the end of the world. And this isn't a small hole. It's 262 feet across.
New unexplained holes have appeared in Siberia following the mystery over a giant crater on the Yama Peninsula. A second is in the same permafrost region of northern Russia, and a third on the Taymyr Peninsula, to the east, in Kransoyak region. Both were spotted by reindeer herders who almost fell in. The original hole received worldwide attention after being identified by helicopter pilots some 20 miles from a huge gas extraction plant at Bovinkov. Now the new holes, smaller in diameter but similar in shape, are posing a fresh challenge for Russian scientists. Theories range from meteorites, stray missiles, a man-made prank, and aliens, to an explosive cocktail of methane or shale gas suddenly exploding, reported the Siberian Times. The version about melting permafrost due to climate change, causing a release of methane gas, which then forces an eruption, is the current favorite, though scientists are reluctant to offer a firm conclusion without more study.
Overnight, skies alive from the Canadian border to the Gulf of Mexico. Almost 400 severe weather reports this week that have brought us some stunning images. Hail covering roads as far as the eye can see in North Dakota.
Look at that, dude!
That striking EF2 swirling through that RV park, injuring 9.
You must disperse immediately!
big mystery this morning. Good morning, everyone. Residents in Harrisburg are still trying to figure out exactly what those flashing lights are. Aliens? A drone, maybe? Well, even the local police department does not have an answer.
Oh, I am scared to death now.
It's the video that's sparking rumors of extraterrestrial life.
It's a strange story in Dauphin County. Unidentified lights hovering over a Lower Paxton Township neighborhood.
A woman witnessed and recorded that event. She also called police and her neighbors just to make sure she wasn't seeing things.
I'm going to get ready to show you a copy of the UFO that I seen last night.
Stephanie Wilkerson says she was enjoying a glass of wine on her porch Monday evening when she looked up in the sky and saw something.
I thought it was a plane until I realized it wasn't moving. And I watched it for about 20 minutes and I started noticing it changing colors.
Stephanie didn't know what to think, so she started recording it on her cell phone and called her husband outside to get his opinion. The Wilkersons thought it would be a good idea to call their neighbor.
He was amazed. He went and got his binoculars because he first thought it was a planet. And then he said, no, it changed yellow. He said, that is not a planet.
Several minutes had passed, so Stephanie decided it was time to call Lower Paxton Township's finest. And within minutes, a police officer arrived.
He went there, and apparently he saw them too. So he called his sergeant and his corporal to come to verify what he was seeing.
Another officer came. He said the same thing. He looked at the binoculars, and it started moving.
He's got to see this.
Police called Fort Indian Town Gap and Harrisburg International Airport. Both indicated they had no aircraft activity in the air at that time. It was a brief incident report.
Our officer saw something that was out of the ordinary for the night sky.
This was a Good Samaritan hospital, the cafeteria here, just to show you the sheer force of these flooding waters just raced through when the doors couldn't handle it anymore. And we were seeing it all over as people were being rescued. And it's not just the East Coast, it's the West Coast too.
It's horrible. I've never seen anything like this.
The growing catastrophe is the worst flooding in a century, triggers landslides, kills dozens, and forces tens of thousands from their homes. Tonight, at least 25 people are dead after the worst flooding in more than a century in Eastern Europe. Tens of thousands of people were forced from their homes after more than 4 months' worth of rain fell in just a single day. NBC's Duncan Golestani has the latest from London.
For thousands of people across Bosnia, this has become the only way to safety. From rooftops and balconies, young and old are pulled onto helicopters. There is a moment of relief before the next precious cargo arrives, a baby saved from the floodwater below. In neighbouring Serbia, entire towns are being evacuated, the water nearly reaching the tops of houses. Across the Balkans, rivers have burst their banks, unable to hold in the heavy rainfall. This man says a wave of water came like a tsunami, destroying everything. The floods have washed away roads and cut off power to hundreds of thousands of homes. But the biggest danger has been landslides, at least 300 in Bosnia alone. A catastrophe, this man says. He watched his home slide away. Now there is the risk of landmines being disturbed, a legacy of this country's painful.
A desperate situation over large parts of Jammu and Kashmir, which is witnessing its worst floods in 50 years. Nearly 150 people have lost their lives, and the Prime Minister will be visiting the area tomorrow to gauge what the situation is. Thousands of armed forces personnel are working day in and day out in extremely treacherous conditions to save as many lives as possible.
Maimuna's family lost their home to the floods, said to be the worst in 50 years. They are now camping in an auto. This is where they cook, eat and huddle together. With nowhere to go, many families have made standing trucks and bus their home.
The Met Office has warned of severe weather in the south of England and Wales, along much of the west coast, as well as in Scotland and Northern Ireland. That means strong winds and maybe more than 1.5 inches of rain. So the pumps at the Somerset levels are likely to be on again today. Most of the flood warnings this morning are in the southwest, which has already been drenched during several days of ferocious weather.
So it's certainly generated, as you'll see, some very dramatic images. Dawlish, on the south coast of Devon. Its name derives, some say, from a Celtic word meaning devil water. And what swept in here last night brought a touch of malevolence with it. This is part of the Exeter to Cornwall train line, suspended mid-air, filleted with ease by last night's high tide, stripped of its ballast and swaying in the wind, as useless as the seawall which used to protect it.
Heavy rain has hit South Korea, causing some pretty dangerous and fatal flash flooding there.
There you see it as it was being swept away. A very dramatic and scary situation. The driver of the bus, by the way, still missing. And you see the onlookers just in complete and utter shock when they see the bus disappear under the water. The bus swept away, and the ending point is the one that I showed you. I guess luckily stuck underneath that bridge, and people were able to get out, and rescue was ongoing. But this was just one example of the situation that people had to deal with here, widespread. Children being evacuated from schools because of high water, like what you're seeing there. Let's roll the next piece of video, because it's also pretty significant when you see here how many cars, dozens and dozens of vehicles stuck in the water. Dramatic rescues that were ongoing throughout the day, areas that could not even be crossed because of flooding and because of mudslides like the ones that you are seeing right there.
From our studios here in Tokyo, this is Newsline. I'm James Tengan. A powerful earthquake shook Nagano Prefecture in central Japan on Saturday. The magnitude 6.8 quake struck at 10:08 p.m. local time, or 13:08 UTC. Officials at Japan's meteorological agency say the focus was in the north of the prefecture at a depth of about 10 kilometers. They say there is no danger of tsunami waves.
Well, it looks like a storm of epic proportions. It's something we really don't see here in Alabama. But take a look at this. You're looking at a huge storm known as a haboob. That's eastern Washington state you're looking at. Now, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, they can pack winds up to 60 miles an hour, and they stir up all that dust and sand.
It's ominous looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a terrifying look. It's like something you'd see out of a sci-fi movie.
A flash of light and a loud boom have a lot of people asking, what was that? Late last night, a massive fireball lit up Vancouver's skies. CTV's John Woodward went to find out what many people witnessed.
Something like this was spotted around 10 o'clock last night, high over Vancouver.
A greenish-coloured streak that split into two and spread across the sky, and they just completely burnt out.
Seen as far away as Vancouver Island. Many people all over the lower mainland took to Twitter to say they saw the meteor. Though it happened so fast, no one had time to pull out a camera.
I feel very fortunate to have seen what we saw. I think it was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of event.
Mexico. This crack stretches nearly 2/3 of a mile and measures close to 30 feet deep and more than 15 feet wide across in some spots. This is in the rural area 50 miles west of the city of Hermosillo in the state of Sonora. While some believe seismic activity is to blame, others point to an underground stream that eroded the ground above it. Now, this incredible video was captured by a drone.
Tropical storm Marie is churning in the Pacific. The monster storm generating incredible waves hundreds of miles away.
Marie is west of the southern tip of Baja now, throwing a big south swell up into our area in some of the highest wave conditions we've seen in years.
Hawaii braces for 2 hurricanes in the Pacific Ocean, but they first dealt with an earthquake.
The day began with a magnitude 4.5 earthquake. There were no injuries or damage, but the day will end with the first of 2 hurricanes, a rare double threat.
Extraordinary pictures which came to us from the Vatican on what was, of course, an extraordinary day. Within hours of Pope Benedict announcing that he was to resign, take a look at this. Lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica. You can see it again now in slow motion. Extraordinary. It happened just before 6 o'clock in the evening, local time.
Over the last 2,000 years, there's been 62 tetrads, but only 8 times have they occurred on the biblical holidays, and in the last 3 of those, they've had great significance for the nation of Israel.
This is the first of 4 total lunar eclipses, or blood moons, we'll see in the next year and a half.
Are they tied to biblical prophecy? Today is the first of 4 blood moon eclipses, rare occurrences that some biblical scholars say signal earth-shattering events, particularly when they happen around the Jewish high holy days.
In Genesis 1:14, God created the sun and the moon, it says, for signals on basically Passover, on his feast days, his appointed times. So for me, if that's what the Bible says, that we need to be watching when those events happen.
Another day of monster waves and dangerous rip currents on both parts of both coasts in this country. 2 powerful storms are responsible. Hurricane Cristobal in the Atlantic and Tropical Storm Marie in the Pacific.
Tonight, a state of emergency declared in the Toledo area, with more than 400,000 residents unable to drink or even boil their tap water. Panicked families lining up to get emergency supplies being trucked in from all over the state. Overnight, officials issuing an urgent notice after chemists found unacceptable levels of toxins in the water supply.
Breaking news out of Armada, where police are stopping cars, every car coming in and out of that little town.
We've got something going on here in Armada that we haven't seen before. We have FBI agents and local police that are stopping everyone coming in or out of the town right now, out of this village. They're questioning everybody coming in and out about the investigation, and they're also putting X's on everybody's hand so they can keep track of who they've talked to, who's come in and out of the town.
I've never seen anything quite like this before, and you wonder if they're just looking at driver's licenses or what, but we'll continue to follow.
Davis Hospital in Atlanta preparing to treat the first Ebola patient ever in the U.S. One of the 2 Americans infected with the deadly virus in Liberia now expected to head here to Emory University Hospital. Now in West Africa, where more than 700 people have already died from the virus, extra efforts are underway to stop the spread of Ebola.
Dozens of people have been killed in Eastern Europe's worst flooding in more than a century as rising waters engulf more towns across Bosnia and Serbia.
This is not something from a Hollywood movie, but it looks otherworldly. Check this video out from eastern Wyoming yesterday. This is what storm chasers call a mother ship, a low precipitation supercell. The rotation that you see there caused by strong winds aloft, and it's not hard to imagine how that could drop a tornado down to the ground. That is a warned supercell thunderstorm causing large hail and damaging wind.
Look at this right here. It's a massive fog bank. It almost looks like a huge wave or something because it's just sitting right there on the water. Oh my gosh. That video really tells a story, doesn't it? But it's, again, fog. This was in Lake Michigan. A man was out there fishing when he saw it, apparently getting ready to move right toward him as well. That's incredible video.
Out west, a mountain of dust rolling across the New Mexico highway, visibility falling to near 0, and 7 vehicles in a chain reaction crash.
Dozens of dead bees near a popular trail. She was worried.
Those bees were found on a stretch of sidewalk near the Albuquerque Academy. And while it's tough to say what killed them, one local bee expert weighs in on just how important they really are.
All of a sudden, we noticed a lot of dead and dying bees. I knew something wasn't right.
Matt Vave has studied bees for 20 years. To see so many bees turn up like this, he says it's not a good sign.
Marina under fire again after as many as 100,000 fish have been found dead in that lake. Colorway News House Catherine Van joins us live in the studio tonight to tell us a little bit more about what's going on at the marina. Catherine?
Pat, that's almost all the fish in the lake. In fact, the Nevada Department of Wildlife tells me there's less than 25 fish still alive in the lake. I was just at the Sparks Marina last week asking experts about the health of the lake, and to which they say it's not a concern. But thousands of dead fish seem to say otherwise.
It's kind of alarming. I'm kind of surprised and a little shocked to hear that.
I'd like to know what's going on. Those poor fish.
What was once home to millions of fish has turned into a watery grave.
A drive through hell, incredible video shot by two men from inside a car at the height of the worst fires roaring through Carlsbad, California. Take a look.
Oh my God! This whole valley was just engulfed in flames, smoke, firestorm coming our way. I was on the driver's side and I could feel the heat coming through the passenger side, and that's obviously where he was filming. The heat was just incredible.
It singed the hair on my arms a little bit.
There was only one way out. It was not going back. We have a median on our left, and you obviously saw what was going on our right.